John Bennett, travelballDad.com, Mark Kester with theplayersnil.com. And we want to take a moment today, Mark, and understand what you've created to see how we can help other youth athletes around the country and possibly the world. Mark, thank you for joining us.
John, thank you very much. I'm excited to share what we're doing and, hopefully change people's lives.
That's what it's about. Mark, I've done some research on you and looked at your bio. You've been in the sport business for quite some time, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, one way or the other, I've been involved in athletics my whole life. My most recent career was in sports and entertainment here in Hollywood. I ran a company called Sports Studio, and we produced movies, TV shows, and commercials, but specifically the sports aspect. So we represented exclusively the NFL, NBA, MLB. So in other words, if you wanted to make a commercial and use their marks, you need to use my company to do wardrobe, props, casting, choreography, everything related to creating sports content.
That's pretty cool. And that website is sportsstudio.com, correct?
Sportsstudio.net.
.net, forgive me. And if you have an opportunity, go and check it out. They've got a pretty cool intro video, and the amount of gear they have in their warehouse to fit. Let's say it's a league of their own, for example, and you've got to fit some women with some baseball uniforms. They've got that on hand, right? And time specific, era specific. It's pretty cool. Check it out. Sportsstudio.net. So you did that for 11 years, I saw, Mark, and then created the Players NIL. What drove you to create the Players NIL? What's the inspiration behind this?
Well, I actually left Sports Studio in June of 2021. And as we know, NIL, name, image, and likeness, started July 1st of 2021. So the timing was coincidental, to say the least. And honestly, I spent a bunch of time researching ways to get involved. It was a perfect storm in terms of my passion for athletes, my experience in business, marketing, agents, brands, sponsorship, everything that I'd done at Sports Studio and everything that I'd done in my life supporting young athletes came to a head. But the one problem was, after several months of looking at it, John, I realized that it was a lot of the same things that had happened in the professional ranks that I was witness to: athletes not being educated, adults and businesses taking advantage of them. And so in October of 2021, I started to envision a way to help student athletes. And in January 12th, 2022, we launched the Players NIL, which is an online educational platform for student athletes.
And that basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mark, that provides the youth athletes the tools where they can drive their own NIL experience, correct?
Yeah, so it's grown in stature since we launched it. We now consider ourselves a athlete-focused center of excellence, meaning we want to work with athletes from age 16 to 61. So not just pre-college, but post-college as well. And so the first offering is what we call a 5 pillars course, which covers what I think are the 5 essential pillars of education that student athletes need to at least understand, if not master, in order to create NIL opportunities and maximize their NIL opportunities.
And there is so much going on, and through your experiences and dealings with various athletes, various companies, various teams, I'm sure that's helped to craft the curriculum per se, right? To give them insight they may not have had otherwise, but that insight was provided because you've seen it firsthand. Maybe you learned from some mistakes, or you saw someone else go through some challenges that you're trying to help others not go through.
Yeah, absolutely. So while the 5 pillars course is focused on NIL, they really are, excuse me, they really are life skills. And so pillar 1 is digital marketing. Pillar 2 is influencer and brand relationships. Pillar 3 is legal, tax, and compliance. Pillar 4 is one that has happened to me organically through this process, and that is community service and philanthropy. John, my father was a junior high gym teacher, and in March of 21, he passed away. And in writing his obituary, it took me 4 pages to write everything that he had done in the community. And 500 plus people showed up at his funeral. This was a junior high gym teacher. This was not a sophisticated civic leader. This was not an industry, a titan of industry. This was a guy that had just naturally and organically influence people's lives. And so pillar 4 is community service and philanthropy. Pillar 5, we hope, is the most important one, because if we're successful with the first 4, pillar 5 is financial literacy. And so as you can see, all of those pillars have application to young people today. I believe, as the father of 5 kids, and you have children, that the world has changed. In our generation, we strove to graduate from college and go to work for a corporation and work from 9 to 5 or 50 hours a week in a cubicle and wear a shirt and tie. Today's kids don't want to do that. And so entrepreneurial experiences are at the top of their list, and working remote and all those types of things. And so marketing, some basic concepts of how brands work, contracts, things like that, financial literacy, giving back. My father's lessons were twofold. One is, use athletics to better your life, which I was fortunate enough to do with a college scholarship. And then the second one was to use athletics to better the lives of the people around you. And I was able to do that in creating youth sports organizations. My own 5 children, 4 of whom became college athletes. And now I would like to influence, or have an opportunity to influence, thousands of student athletes around the country, and give them a chance to make their lives better. And that's what the Players NIL is all about.
Great stuff. And for the purpose of this conversation, you mentioned 16 to 61. You want to help everybody, right? But for the purpose of this right here, from the college athlete, right, the student athlete, does this help? I'm sure it can help everybody, but with the Power 5 type of situations, right, to where they've got resources on hand from a couple different players, is the Players NIL geared towards non-Power 5 type conferences? I'm sure it can help those athletes, don't get me wrong, but where's your sweet spot? Where do you feel the most help can be provided to those youth athletes?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you're absolutely right. So, we like to say that the top 2% are going to Power 5 conferences. It's probably less than that, but we'll be generous and say that those kids are going to have the resources of Power 5 schools, whether it be athletic departments, academic, recruiting support. They can still benefit from our course because they still need to perform as NIL athletes. But we are focused on the 98% below, the ones that don't have those resources. And we started at age 16 because we believe that as a junior in high school, your recruiting process starts. Most sports, that's when you start to get contacted from coaches. That's when you start to think about your career. And why wait till college? Why not be prepared to help make a decision, to help add value, to create opportunities when you get to college on day one? And that 98%, we believe, will benefit most from our course.
That's phenomenal. And we've seen firsthand, Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO, as well as D1, don't get me wrong, but there's opportunity at every level, and having the skill set to take advantage of that. And at the end of the day, every person is their own brand. And I think you'd agree with that. And you teach that, and that entrepreneurial spirit. It's hard for some people to come by that, but others it's natural. We talk about our dads. My dad was a car dealer, and I saw for the firsthand that hustle and grit, go out and sell, you eat what you kill, right? So that helped me to develop that entrepreneurial spirit at an early age. It also taught me not to go into the car business, but I had that work ethic and mentality that has really helped me in the sales capacity. But for these youth athletes, and I think you'd agree, if they had the mentality of, this is my own company, this is my brand, it's going to help them sooner rather than later, right? So that's great stuff, and it's a life lesson. Sports is finite. At some point, you stop playing whatever you're playing, and so these are lessons they can take with them forever. Those 5 pillars, I really drilled down into those, and from financial literacy to the tax and compliance, and the philanthropy, community service aspect. Those are great attributes to carry with you forever, and help you give back, help you become more well-rounded and more successful at the end of the day. So not to get long-winded, the goal here is for you to talk and not me, but I really have enjoyed learning more about the Players NIL. Is there anything that you, from the parents aspect, your goal is to help the youth athletes. But if there's any insight you can provide parents, what would that be, Mark?
Well, having gone through it as a parent and as an advisor to many families, we all want our kids to be successful. And I think in parenting, what I've developed in my career as a dad is two words. And I think the two greatest things parents can give their kids are confidence and opportunity. And there's different ways to do that. It could be math, it could be cooking, it could be travel, it could be science, it could be art. There's lots of ways. For me, it was sports. And for the Players NIL, we're going to, try and give confidence and opportunity through the avenue of sports. And I think as parents, if you think about that, then what are the things that you can do to help your kids? And we know, that parents are committed, as you mentioned to me off camera, to this travel team situation, to the equipment, to the club coaches, to the individual training. And to academics, SAT training, special tutoring, things to prepare yourself for college, and to hopefully use athletics to better your life. And in particular, to use athletics to get you into an academic institution that you might not normally be able to get to, right? And so, the beautiful thing about athletics is if you're desired by the institution, by the coach, there's ways to help you get in. And we know that the success rate of student athletes once they're in school is higher than if they're not recruited, right? And so I think confidence and opportunity. I think the Players NIL 5-pillar course goes towards that mentality. And for those parents that want to really help their kids, I think that they'll find this beneficial.
Wonderful, Mark. Do you see high schools becoming, or states becoming, more receptive of high school players leveraging NIL deals? Do you think that's going to continue that trend, or do you think we're going to? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the answer is yes, and I think it's with a caveat, and the caveat in a very scary way, because we know how crazy high school parents can be. We know how crazy brands and agents can be with high school athletes, and we'll classify it again to the top 2%. The top 2%, those kids when they're juniors in high school probably already have their path to Kentucky basketball, Alabama football, Georgia football, whatever it is. But again, the Division II, Division III, the Division I mid-majors, their journey is just beginning. But there's no question that I think there's 15 states now that have legalized NIL. No question it's going to go to 50. You can't stop it. I've talked to hundreds of athletic directors and administrators in high school. They're all scared because they don't know. It's the unknown. And again, we're developing in phase 2 of our business a curriculum to help administrate NIL for high school student athletes. So athletic directors, coaches, principals, guidance counselors, just to be able to share resources and guide student athletes and their families to where they can find the information and not sign contracts and create relationships in a bubble.
That's phenomenal, and we'll be watching out for it to be released for that high school player. That's great stuff. Well, Mark, thank you so much for taking a moment today. If you can hang on 1 second. Again, people, theplayersnil.com, phenomenal resource to begin educating your youth athlete, you as a parent, for both that high school and college athlete that is curious about the NIL space. Believe me, it's not that easy. There's a lot of T's and C's and a lot of I's that have to be dotted, T's that have to be crossed. Better to have the resource and understanding as to what to do, and more importantly, what not to do. You can get in trouble pretty quickly, I would think, from a non-disclosure perspective with revenue. And it's better to put it all out there and be as compliant as possible, because the last thing you want to do is jeopardize that athlete's career and kind of go from there. But Mark, hey, thank you so much, man, for taking a second. Hang on and we'll finish up, okay?
Great, John, thank you very much.
All right, brother.